Laverne? Okay. Okay, 7 o'clock, calling the meeting to order. Laverne, would you like to lead us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Suzanne, will you take roll call, please?
Trustee Villalobos?
Here.
Trustee Vidal?
Here.
Trustee Chiapari?
Here.
Trustee Levin?
Here.
Trustee Gould?
Here.
Thank you.
The district digitally records the audio portion of the meetings. The recorder is located in front of the board scribe. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. As a community service, Pacifica Community Television records and broadcasts meetings. We would like to open tonight's board meeting in memory of Catherine K. Kirkland, a retired teacher in the formerly known Laguna Salada Union School District, now called Pacifica School District, who passed away on Thursday, March 2nd. Kay began her career with Laguna Salada back in September of 1952 and taught at schools including Sharp Park and Ortega. She retired in 1982 after 30 years of teaching in the district. Approval of the minutes of March 8th. Did anyone have any adjustments to? Okay, then is there a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the minutes from March 8th.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any changes or removal of items? Okay, then may I have a motion?
Either way. Motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address the board on any issue that is not on the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is 3 minutes. LSEA.
Good evening, I'm Gina Arguello from LSCA, and today we are going to hear from IBL.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jane Solano. I'm a teacher at IBL. I know a lot of you, I teach 6th grade. And I am an LSEA rep there also. So we're doing a lot of great things at IBL, as I'm sure you're aware of, but one of the things we thought that you might not be completely aware of is our efforts towards a very positive climate on our campus climate. And so we put together a little short PowerPoint to tell you how we're trying to increase positivity on our campus. So if we could have the next slide, please. Our goals with this are to promote a positive school climate and improve overall student well-being through teaching mindfulness, building strong connections through our advisory program, and working towards a more restorative approach to student discipline. So our staff is mindful. Does everyone know what mindfulness is? I was just thinking I should maybe just define that for you a little bit. Mindfulness is basically paying attention to things and to yourself and being in the moment. And so when you do that, it will result in things like a better focus, higher level of awareness, better self-control, and even just appreciating things because you're paying attention to them. So We have dedicated several sections of staff meetings to learning about promoting mindfulness. Our counselor generally opens our meetings with a 1-minute meditation. And I'm so sorry that I forgot the singing bowl tonight because I was going to have you guys do that. But it's basically just a minute of focusing on the sound of the singing bowl and then focusing on our breath for the rest of the minute. And it really does help people kind of get in the moment and calm down a little bit. So helps us center. Our students, we teach mindfulness in the 6th grade. Our counselor, Megan Newberger, comes in and does a series of about 16 or 20 mindfulness lessons that take about 10 minutes. She does it once a week and just rotates through our 6th grade classrooms to introduce them to the idea and to have them practice some mindfulness, from just the focus on the breath to even things like mindful eating, where they have to put a little raisin in their mouth and think about where it came from and how long it took to get there and what it really tastes like and whether they like it or not and things like that. So that's where they get introduced to it. And there's various classrooms, because our staff is aware of it, doing it, the little parts of that type of thing in different ways. The Mind Yeti website is linked here. I don't know if you guys want to, maybe at the end if there's time, we can go back and link to that. But if you yourself or you have children that are interested in doing a little easy mindfulness, this is a series of videos that a lot of the classroom teachers are just popping up for a mindful break kind of a thing, and it's nice. I teach yoga to the 7th graders, and I think it's just a great thing that we have on our campus, not because I like yoga, but because I'm sure you guys know how 7th graders are, and they really, it's really a great chance for them just to calm down and to be in a place where there's not a lot of pressure and stress, and they just can be themselves. And I think they learn over this course of a trimester to really control themselves and to be able to pull that in at different points in their school day or their life, just to be more effective and to feel better about themselves. So those are some of the things we've got going on with the students. Restorative justice, we've had 2 trainings the past couple of, has it been since 2015? So the last couple of years, and these are to help us focus on a more restorative approach with our students. Instead of being punitive about everything, we take the stance of trying to talk things out, trying to help each other understand each other. I think it really builds empathy. If there's a discipline problem, if somebody's done something that has hurt another person, instead of just being punished or going to a detention and sitting there doing nothing, they are encouraged to talk about how that, to recognize how it might have hurt the other person and just be empathetic, as well as really actually having to do some reflection on paper or in restorative circles, depending on the situation. So we've been trying to practice that at all levels in the classroom, teachers taking that on, as well as our administration have been very supportive of that kind of approach. Okay. So advisory yoga, we also have challenge day for the 7th graders each year. We've already had that this year. And our mindfulness training and focuses is what's going on there. So I just in closing wanted to recognize our counselor and our administration at IBL because they're really spearheaded this effort. And I think it's really caught on with our staff. Our advisory program's in its 2nd year, and we're staying as sort of families with our advisory groups, which I think is great because we're really building relationships with those kids. And we have, in my own case, I have a 7th grade group this year because we started with 6th grade last year. And so I have the same group, and they're finally starting to open up. And so, just having that continuity from year to year has been really good, and I think it's going to be a great thing in the long run that we've tackled that. So thank you for your time, and I probably went way over, I'm sorry. I tend to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
I appreciate everything
Thank you.
you're doing at IBL. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad to be there, so. Good luck.
Okay, CSEA? I have nothing. Okay, thank you. People wishing to address the board? No cards? Okay, correspondence?
None?
Okay. Board Superintendent Communications. Someone like to start?
Well, there were just two things this past week, but fairly big. The Sunset Ridge Pancake Breakfast on Saturday was, most everybody was there, and it was a lot of fun. Looked like it was very successful. Well, it's one of their biggest money makers every year, so it seemed well attended and it's very tasty. And then several of us went to Legislative Action Day and met briefly with Jerry Hill and Kevin Mullen and Scott Wiener, and they had a big attendance there from CSBA, and I think they were really receptive. They've got a lot on their minds in Sacramento right now, but I think they're definitely doing what they can for the schools.
Am I allowed to ask a question? It's not agendized.
It depends on what.
Okay, I'll ask a question. You can tell us if she can't answer it.
That
You
we
can
might
ask
need
me
to do, we might need to do an item on it.
Yes.
Oh.
Good.
Because my question, after being a part of this district for, I don't know, 20 years or something, and I remember back in the day, people were getting on buses and going to Sacramento. And I realize it's a good thing for us to partake in this, but I'm wondering what people are feeling like is really coming out of this. I'm not saying it's, I'm not trying to imply it's a waste of time, but I'm just wondering, other than a day of meeting with them and photographs and everybody feeling sort of good about the meeting, I'm just wondering if anyone is seeing any, after doing it for so long, what we're kind of seeing are results, since we're always talking about data. So
So one of the things I can do is to work with CSBA, contact one of their people and see, and get that feedback, and then I can report out at a next board meeting
Okay.
if you'd like.
I'm just
I know
interested.
like one of the main topics last year was the reserve cap. And I know they have legislation going through now, and they're really working on that, so it must have gotten their attention, I think.
Okay.
Some-
So-
It may take a year.
Right,
But the
so
contact-
planting the seed.
So a lot of the groups that come, I don't think have regular contact with their representatives. We have a lot of contact with our representatives, so,
okay. That makes
for
sense.
us, it's not the only time we're seeing them.
Right.
But I think for a lot of others, it's a big deal for them to go there and actually have contact. So.
Sure.
So Superintendent Tuckle, I wasn't sure if we were allowed to respond or not.
Well,
Well,
so
we can't have an
Because-
extended discussion, I
Right.
think.
I mean, I
you
don't have
can
to.
talk about your
Yeah,
experience.
exactly. I don't have to
Right,
respond
right.
directly,
Right.
but I was at Legislative Action Day. The three of us, the three middle board members were there. It was my first one, but I found it extremely helpful. Not just having contact with the legislature, but having contact with other board members. And also, we went there and the CSBA has their sort of hour-long briefing beforehand, and they say, listen, these are the three topics that we feel are really important. So one of them was getting rid of this reserve cap, basically, or lifting it. The other one was on teacher shortages. So they were talking about proposed legislation there. I think 3 different bills they were talking about. And then the third one was talking about pensions. And so the reserve cap doesn't really affect us too much, but the other 2 definitely affect us. I think.
Affects us a little bit. but-
So I found it really, really interesting, actually. I think the sessions with the representatives were pretty short, but I think having them hear the same thing from several different people at least gave me the feeling that it's definitely on their radar. I know that Kevin Mullen definitely understood that adequate funding is a huge issue, and so I'll just continue on just for one more minute, and I attended dinner with Mike Kirst, the president of our state board. And so Mike did a nice presentation of the new California dashboard, and he also sort of went over a little bit of the emergence of LCFF, the local control funding formula. And I thought that he was very upfront, and he said, listen, we're doing good, we don't have everything that we want yet, but LCFF tried to provide equity in terms of funding across districts. The new dashboard is a way that we can try to infuse accountability. But he did admit that the one piece that's really missing is adequate funding, and that's the next thing to work on. And so we now have a nice framework to equitably distribute dollars across districts, but the base level of funding is just not there. We have to pump more money into it. So I thought that was really nice, and that was one of the things that was not on CSBA's agenda that our group was pushing, I think, in every one of these meetings. So part of it is yes, CSBA's agenda, and whether we agree with it or not, we can decide whether to push it at here. But it's also an opportunity for us to push our, what we feel are issues that are most pressing for Pacifica. So, I thought it was. I'm willing to go again.
Yeah. I also went, and it was my first time, and it's always on a Tuesday, one of my most obligative work days for myself because I run the program, and I found it very useful and helpful. I also had my mom come, and I think for like Kevin Mullen to hear it from all of us, what we need and how short everything is, and then getting the current information as well, like hearing that we're number 36th in funding across the United States, yet we're in California, which has one of the biggest economies, and it just makes you go, what? And also the pensions, after that I had a lot of questions, so I met with Josie, and she answered everything, and I felt a little better after that. So thank you, Josie. I went to pancake breakfast, and it looked huge. I was there last year, and I don't think I remember it being that big. And I took Henry, I'm like, oh, do you want to go to breakfast? He's like, yeah. Then also just kind of one thing that was out in the community is my daughter texted me this article from Terra Nova Times where somebody was talking about, getting the kids educated on drugs and alcohol before high school because by then it's too late. She's like, look, Mom. And I'm like, yeah, Sophie, you knew that, 2 years ago, So I'm just happy that we're going in that direction. Where we're starting to educate the kids a little bit more before they go into high schools because they're going to be slammed with it when they get there. So that's it. Thanks.
So I think I'm a repeat on everything, but the thing I thought about and had a short discussion with another person about the pancake breakfast was that I remember when that, the days when that was the way that kids got to go to outdoor ed at Sunset Ridge. And now they don't rely on that since we pay for outdoor ed. They now have a large fundraiser that they never were able to use before.
Right.
And so, we've really provided, Sunset Ridge with a way of being able to keep some of that money to use for programs like other PTAs have plenty of money to spend on extra things for the kids. So, pretty kind of proud that we can do that.
Yeah, nice point. Okay, so I attended the Zap the Gap conference, which Elizabeth also attended, which was quite interesting. The Odstad, we had a request for proposal meeting, which is coming later, information on that later today in today's meeting. I attended a special ed meeting, which was actually a quarterly meeting for the teachers and the psychs and different providers. Went to the San Mateo County Sex Abuse in Schools workshop, which was difficult but very interesting, and the Celebrate Diversity Parent Evening at Ocean Shore, which was a parent ed night after having the Diversity Day. They had the authors there from who wrote a book called Jacob's New Dress that's talking about gender identity, and it was really a nice evening to see all these different parents, again, with particular issues for their children being supported and able to share in a very safe place. One thing I wanted to say is that all those things I attended, I actually picked up information, which if anyone wants to kind of peruse what we looked at the GAP Summit, should have bought that book. We actually were able to get a book, which I think we're getting at all the sites, from the Kinsey collection that shows African American art and artifacts, things that maybe have not been covered in history books well. It's a beautiful book, so all the sites will have that in their libraries. And the part that really interested me also in the San Mateo County sex education or informative evening, they gave us information also on talking with the media about issues in the district and how to conduct yourself and things that I was thinking, well, this would have been really nice when I first got on the board, because they talk about how to talk with the media and how to maybe combat if being misquoted or issues that might arise. So I have all this. If anybody wants to peruse at the end of the meeting, you feel free to see me, and I'm happy to share. Please.
So, having had the opportunity to attend many similar activities, a few things that I'd like to highlight is the fact that the North County Collaborative, which is our Brisbane, Bayshore, Jefferson Elementary School District, and Jefferson Union High School District, and ourselves received another Silicon Valley Community Foundation grant for rising 8th graders to 9th grade, and that would be for mathematics. So we contracted with a company called A-Learn, and what they do is they focus on college readiness through mathematics, and so students have the opportunity to go visit a university, and there will be interns in the classroom, and again focusing on growth mindset, which is something that I think allows our students to have that self-efficacy. In Pacifica, we are working on a program called Elevate, which will be a summer program for mathematics, rising 5th grade rising into 6th, 6th graders rising into 7th, and 7th graders rising into 8th. And it will be a summer program, and I share that because I was talking with LSCA today, and we're afraid that people are starting to fill their summers, and so we want to make sure and get that information out soon. And we are looking at students who need support in mathematics first. So that will be our first invite to those students. We're also asking some of our teachers to teach those summer classes, and I think it'll help our students then when they meet them in their math classes to have made that personal connection. Thank you for bringing up the Kinsey collection. It's a wonderful resource of primary and secondary resources that teachers can access, and the library media technicians, I took it to the library media meeting, and they were really excited about getting that as an option, a resource option at the schools. I think you will start seeing a real shift in how we teach history. It's really the focus is not to really talk about what is in a textbook as opposed to, and what maybe publishers feel is important for students to know, but really about getting to know the culture and doing research around what really did happen and how it happened and why it happened, and students then have that opportunity to really share their own personal stories as well as learn the facts of really what occurred and why it occurred. So I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for our students as we move into this new framework.
Thank you. District goals. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our agenda online public page or by visiting the district website www.pacificasd.org under District Information Board of Trustees. Update Resolution number 2017-01-18-A, Principles in Support of Undocumented Students and Families, LCAP Goal 3, Governance.
Okay, so this resolution was passed by the board back in January 18th of this year in support of undocumented students and families. Just to capture some highlights of this resolution, it fosters an environment in which all students are able to learn and excel. This resolution also supports the privacy rights of students, and the resolution also supports the district in not releasing information regarding immigration status unless required by law, for example, a subpoena. So since the resolution was passed, we've now established some methods for support of our undocumented students and families, and I'd like to share our next steps in tonight's presentation. Thank you. So, as the board title is Guiding Principles, tonight we will review communications and resources. We will review board policies and law, and what support will be given to site administration and staff in terms of the resolution. So for communications and resources, we've already placed on our Pacifica School District website a tab that's titled Building Inclusive Communities. And when the resolution was approved back in January, there were some initial pieces of documentation in support of our undocumented students and families that was placed on there. Since then, we've built that tab up with more resources. In progress of development, we are connecting with San Mateo County Office of Ed with their website so that we can give some direct links, and also taking guidance from legal counsel with some direct links that we'll be putting on this tab. That's to come. And then we are working with community agencies. As you can imagine, there are several community agencies in support of our undocumented students and families, and they freely offer us numerous amounts of resources. So we're just going through making sure that we're choosing appropriate pieces of material to include on our website, and we've been able to find some that are also in Spanish as well, okay, and other languages. Board policies and law that we already have established here in Pacifica School District focuses on how we receive visitors, outsiders, outside of the school or the district, how we also respond to the questioning and apprehension by law enforcement of our students, and student and family privacy rights. So those are three existing board policies, administrative regulations that very much support our actions with this resolution. And then we always can fall back on the Family Education Rights Privacy Act, otherwise known as FERPA. So what is this support going to look like for admin and staff? We are going to provide upcoming staff development regarding undocumented students and families and how we will be in best support of them. We're going to create a folder for our office personnel because most likely those are going to be the employees in our district that would greet somebody that's coming into the school or into the district office requesting information. So in that folder, there will be the board policies and steps for protocol. We will also give direction to our website at upcoming meetings involving staff so that they know not only how to navigate the website and the Building Inclusive Communities tab, but also point them to the FAQs. And then bottom line, our staff always knows, our principals and our vice principals and assistant principals, they always know that they can pick up the phone and talk directly to the superintendent for guidance. Any questions, comments?
I know we have confidentiality, but I hear things on the news, I'm watching things, and some police departments are being asked, to go to schools, and so I'm just hoping that we're not in that bunch. Just hoping to make sure.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we are not.
Probably if I were to say the important thing that I'm sensing and feeling, especially in our community, is to inform our families and to make sure that the message is out there that we are supportive of them and that we provide them with wonderful resources. Elizabeth brought some great documents that we're going to place on our website for parents to use should they need it. And again, by informing our administrators, then they can be that conduit out into our communities to make sure that all of our families feel safe. It doesn't matter who they are, and that we will do what we need to do to ensure that their child gets the appropriate public education that they deserve.
I know back in January, February, there was sort of a flurry of, I don't know if it was rumors or what, going on about raids going on in schools, but I haven't heard much lately.
So we do fact checking when that happens. We're very fortunate. San Mateo County Office of Ed has been a great resource. If they hear things that are happening out in the community, they do go out and they check it, and Anne is good about sending us information to tell us whether it's true or not true. Thus far, many of the things that have come to us, we've sent to her, and it has not come out as being factual. Okay. So we do have a system among the superintendents to work with the County Office of Ed.
So, my only thought on this is that I think it's really important for families to be informed of the district's official position, and I'm not sure if they're, yes, we have principals that know what the district's position is, but I think a concerted dissemination effort out to families to know that, as a district, we've got their backs, might be really, really important. And that will trickle down from the parents to the kids, right? Kids aren't going to be able to learn if they're stressed out at school.
And students to families, because
Sure,
that's
that
where
can go that way as well, sure.
Yeah, students will open up to the adults, and that's when we know we need to.
So, and I'm sorry, I haven't been to the website yet, so
Yeah.
my apologies, but I want to check that out, and maybe it's just as simple as everybody check out this website. It's going to tell you what your rights are, what the district's position is on this, and don't be afraid, don't be worried. That's the bottom line.
Well, and you did send out superintendent communication when you first
I
passed
remember
the
that, yeah.
resolution, but it doesn't hurt to do it
I think several of the
repeatedly.
principals also sent out the
Oh, do they?
resolution in their
Okay.
newsletter, in their
Yeah.
weekly newsletters, so,
Yeah.
to the families.
Okay.
So.
It doesn't hurt to remind people, though.
There's-
Yeah.
There's also an official resolution, and then there could be things that might be a little more easily digestible for families.
Right.
That there's the heretofores and the herebys
Yeah.
can throw people off.
No, but I mean, when she sent that out, she sent a nice letter explaining,
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that as well.
but it doesn't hurt to repeat.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So under the Building Inclusive Communities tab, it has been updated to a certain extent, and there's a new tab titled Additional Resources for Families.
Yeah, okay.
And there's an opening message that guides the families to not only read the information that's been posted, but to then seek out their principal if they have greater questions.
Great, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Right, thank you. California School Dashboard, LCAP Goals 1, 2, 3, Governance. Will?
Yes, so we talked about this at the last board meeting, and also we had the work study before that around this, but it's live now. So actually, what I was gonna do was I was gonna take you to the live page, so it's public, it's out in the public. And there's some confusion, there's actually two separate web pages that have California dashboard. There's the main California dashboard, which looks like this. And that dashboard, there's also another site that has the 5x5 placement chart. So I'm gonna try to go through both of them. But this again is accessible to the public now, and actually you can go to any school in the state of California and type that name in and get this information out. Again, the California dashboard is replacing what we now would refer, what was the API or the AYP. It is it's a multiple measure of how our students are performing. It focuses not just on their status, and they're within groups, subgroups, schools, but also it recognizes and shows if there's progress being made. So there's two. So on this dashboard, there are four tabs. There's the equity tab, which gives you the information about how the students are performing, which is down this line here, on the state indicators, and also eventually will be on the local indicators. If you remember from last time, they're color coded depending on how you're doing. So blue is doing very well, and orange or red are areas where work needs to be done. And green is really the target area where you want to be. That's your target area. And then there's another color that's not represented here, but you could be in yellow, which is between red and orange. This first tab, the equity report, talks about the total number of student groups that are represented or have a significant number of students within that. And that's, for instance, for the suspension rate, there's 10 groups. And then it also lists the groups that are in red and orange of those 10, which is 5 groups. And when we talk about groups, those are subgroups. And the subgroups have to total 30 or more students district-wide. Actually, it's over 30. It's 31 or more students district-wide to get a color, basically to get a color. And then, like for instance, English language learner progress, there's only one group. Why is there one group? Because that is a subgroup. That's the subgroup. So there's only one group. But for English language arts, there's 8 groups that have a significant number. 2 of them are in red or orange, and so on. So that's the equity tab. The second tab is the status and change report, which gives you, it's the same list of student performances down this way, right, under student performance, but also tells you the status, where they are status-wise. And when I get to the 5x5 placement chart, you'll see what that means. But also talks about the change. So for instance, with, let's take English language arts. As a district, we were high on the status, and we maintained that from the previous year. So in 15-16, we had a high status in that area, and we maintained from 14-15 to 15-16. We maintained that level. So that is the status and change report. The detailed report is right now, it's coming soon. So that's going to actually dive, it's going to dive down a little bit more, and off the status and change report, there's going to be a little more detail there. And then the final group, which is one that came out right when it went live, this one it lists the state indicators here and how we did all students, but also lists the subgroups across here. So you can look at a specific subgroup and see how they did on that. And then and in the different areas like suspension, English language arts, or mathematics, it's there. So that's the California dashboard. Now, the next report I'm going to show you is again public and live, but it's on a different website. It's off the CDE website, and it is actually the California Model 5x5 placement reports data. Now, when we talk about colors, here are your colors. Here's all the colors, right? Your status is this axis, right? Where you land status-wise, and then this is your status for change, how you did previously. Again, the great thing about, I personally believe, the great thing about these reports is that it not only gives you credit for where you're at, but also gives you credit for if you made some improvement, right? Or if you didn't make any improvement. The one I'm showing you here is the suspension indicator, and you notice that you want to get into the blue, but it says decline significantly. For suspensions, you want to decline significantly, right? But if we went to another one, say we did English language arts, you want, here it says increase significantly is where you're going to. But if you notice at the bottom, if you have a very low status, right? So for instance, our students with disability are in the red here. They may be very low because they're more than 70 points below what the average 3 is across the state of California. But they can show improvement if they show some sort of growth. Even though they may not change in the status, they can move over to like increase or increase significantly. They can be in orange or yellow. So they get credit for it. So it's with this accountability system, you don't have that thing where, oh, you're low status and it's going to be years before you get out of low status. They do give credit if you're making some improvement. So that is, for this 5x5 chart, that kind of gives you it broken down. Now, you can get it, there's another piece here that gives you the raw numbers, and that is it's right here in the corner. It should be a bigger font or something, like standing farther up, but it says View Detailed Data. So if you click on the View Detailed Data, it actually gives you the numbers for all of this, for this particular report, which is the subgroups. It gives you the colors, and it gives you actually the numbers, the where you're at status-wise, your current status. It gives you the current difference between the prior year status. It gives you the prior status, and then it also gives you the prior year number of valid students, the students that are included in that group. Now, what's different from this is some of the subgroups have colors, and some of them don't. The reason why the ones that don't is, like I mentioned before, they have 30 or less students in that group. But it'll give you the numbers in some of them if they don't have less than 11. So the ones that, like American Indian, Alaska Native, they have the numbers that are only there are the current number of students, 8 and 7, but they don't give you any information as that because they're below 11, and that's how they kind of state it. But for instance, in Black or African American, there's more than 11 here, but less than 30, but so you do get the raw numbers. Any questions? Yes.
Being American Indian, it makes me feel like we don't matter. So I'm just wondering if there's any way to track the ones in our district that don't have enough numbers.
So we do track them, and the California dashboard is a reference for us to reference to help us develop goals and objectives. But it's not, we also use our own current data, so we do track those, and we have actions and supports for those within the LCAP. This is just, right now, it's in the pilot,
Yeah.
and it's just a reference right now.
Right.
We do have the numbers. We can go into Illuminate and figure out
Check
those
it out.
numbers ourselves, for all the groups, whether they have numbers or colors or not.
I mean,
Right.
I think it will be interesting as, once this gets out, I mean, it's more than a beta, you know, it's public, it's been released, but it'll be interesting to see if CDE is going to give special permissions to districts to see their own data, because, right,
We can see it, but sometimes their numbers and our numbers
Don't match.
are not the same. So we've received direction from San Mateo County Office of Ed to use our numbers, because ours is probably the strongest. I don't think, it won't be significant, you know, the amount of difference may not be significant enough for us to worry about, but when we do our SBAC, we always have to look at our scores to make sure that there isn't something that we see that's an anomaly. And then if so, then we dig deeper into the data to see. But remember, at our work study, we had talked about, you know, we need to do LCAP and metrics, et cetera, for that. But we also have this other layer for Pacifica School District that we will be monitoring, especially like our foster youth. We have less than 15, so they're not significant, or 30, but they're still a very important subgroup. So we do have strategies in place in which to ensure that we're meeting the needs of different targeted populations.
There's also.
So the reason they don't publish that on a website that can be available to anybody, because you use anonymity. You lose anonymity when your numbers are so small, because you say, well, I know every Native American kid in Pacifica, so now I know specific information about kids. So when it gets bigger than 30, then, you know, you tend to be more anonymous. So they're not trying to hide data, they're just trying to keep people's data anonymous,
Right.
personal data.
And we know that, but parents don't know that. So when somebody's coming into the district and, like I did, you know, looked on great schools, you know, CDE, to look at everything, they don't really know that, you know. So, you know, I know it's one of those things. And then the other thing is the students with disabilities, would it be safe to say that a lot of districts are in the red there, or?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a
It's across the
significant
state.
amount of districts, which I think is the part that is good, to me, is a positive of this, is that that's been historically, the students with disability have been in that area, but the way they're, the way we're gonna be accountable off this is that we gotta show progress of those students, not
Right.
that they're just labeled the lowest level all the time, that there's progress, and so it's gonna give credit to that. There's one other thing I do wanna point out, and I forgot to point this out, is some of the data here is dated, like the suspension data is dated. So I know that we've been told that it's gonna be constantly adjusted as far as like made better, made more informative, made more up to date, that type of thing. There's some parts of it that are not filled in, like chronic absentees, the suspensions is dated. We don't have the detailed reports in the other. So there's a lot of things that are moving. That's why they're calling it a pilot, because they're just testing it out and seeing how it goes.
Because as we crunch our numbers, and we will be providing to our stakeholders on Monday the current metrics for suspensions, for example, with the new data, we are considered green using the table, because we have decreased our suspensions and we are low suspensions. So when you look at the metrics, or the 5x5, we have now moved into the green status. So what we have done is we have created with our current data what our benchmarks will be. And so in May, I will show you that information. So it's kind of, it's exciting.
It is.
Did you have a question?
Oh, I was just still wondering about the students with disabilities and if a parent is looking on the website, you know, they're gonna think, wow, they're really not taking care of them. So I'm just wondering if there's a way for us to counter that, because I know we are.
Yes, and what we're doing is we have asked, I send a letter out regarding the dashboard, and then the principals are sending letters out to their communities so that if parents do have concerns, then they can go directly to the school because you're a little more comfortable there. And then as we get better at looking at our numbers and seeing the direction that we're going, we will be able to do a lot more in addressing how we're moving from red or orange or whatever color we are, and how we're going to support our students in whichever subgroup they are. So I think over time, it came out March 15th. Yeah. So it's all kind of, I think, moving in that direction. I had a wonderful meeting, or we had a wonderful meeting with our district English Language Advisory Council last Tuesday? I mean, yeah, and so we're getting this information out to the various subgroups.
Have you heard much from parents in the community after this went live? Was there?
I've gotten 2 calls.
Okay.
But they've both been more, the questions that they're asking is more of understanding.
Right.
And the thing that and the letters that have been sent out by the principals and Wendy's letter out to the community has been focused on this idea of this change, that we're looking at the change. So the letters, the principals, they passed them by me to take a look. They're looking at, they're concentrating on that change piece because that's how you eventually will move up status-wise if you keep changing positively.
This is just such a different process. I was just wondering, how it was received, because I think of how much education we've all received on it, and we're still learning it. So I can
And
imagine.
I've been looking at it for months and I'm still
Right.
Like, oh, now I see.
Yeah.
So for the math and ELA, when were those tests taken?
So the math and the ELA are 15, 16. They are as current as you can get.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and remember they're 3rd through 8th.
Yeah.
So they're not considering the K1, 2s. So it's constantly having to inform stakeholders and parents and
Yeah, for me, I mean, looking at the math was definitely an area for, an opportunity for us to improve. So it was nice to hear Superintendent Tuckoff that you were mentioning, elevate, and, there's good reason that we're putting resources in there.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or comment? Okay, thank you. Approval of the contract with Brookwood Advisors, preparation of the developer request for proposal RFP for Odstad site operations.
Okay, thank you. Tonight, we're asking the board to approve a contract with Brookwood Advisors in the amount of $20,000, and that would be to assist us in writing a request for proposal for a developer for workforce housing at the Odstad site. In the agenda item, if you look at it, I did kind of list the history of board discussions going back, just so the public would see all the discussions you've had prior to this, and then I also attached the proposal from Brookwood. So we've been, as Elizabeth mentioned in several meetings, John Hashizumi and myself with Brookwood Advisors and some conference calls, and just talking to them about what service they could provide for us. And we really did feel it was a strong match for our district because of their expertise in the housing development industry. And they've really done some mostly college level, like San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, and not so much the K-12 education, but we did feel that they had that type of expertise, and we feel it's something that we need, being in education and not being in real estate or building or residential, that they would be able to provide us with that type of expertise. Elizabeth and Kathy have also been in meetings with them as well, and we were able to talk to them about what they could provide for us. And it is detailed on the attachment, the services. There is a full proposal that they've provided to us to provide services from the RFP phase all the way through construction and even through post-construction, where they would help us with any post-construction issues. And we felt that this time it's best for us just to look at the first phase for the RFP, ask the board to approve that, and then as we move forward and we have some financing in place, we could then come back to you and ask for more assistance from Brookwood Advisors, because it is something we just don't have internal expertise to manage this type of project. But I don't know if you had time to look at the proposal, if you have any questions, or if Elizabeth and Kathy have anything to add to this.
I think one piece of this that I would add in support of this assistance is eliminating what we've had happen with things like the Ocean Shore roof. Because, you know, the modernization was pretty much managed by district, which most of it was wonderful, but there were pieces missing that now we are all paying for because there wasn't that oversight in the process. Everyone did the best they could. I'm not casting blame, but it's a reality that's part of what we're trying to avoid, because we don't want our district 10 or 15 years down the road to suddenly have a similar issue that they are then having to pay to fix. Mm-hmm. So again, we all know how much our district staff is already maintaining and covering, and so this piece, having this oversight and this expertise, hopefully will help guide us through the beginning of the build and set us on the right track and make sure we are really using our money wisely and well. I don't know if you had anything.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely need this supervision and assistance at this part.
Yeah, I read through the memo. It was really helpful. $20,000 for, you know, to have an RFP out there that we can stand behind. It also, you know, talked a little bit about, you know, we're able to discuss with them how much involvement we actually want, which is good.
Yes, very good. They're very flexible with us.
So it's not that they're going to go back to their offices, draft something up, and email it to us and say, "Where's our check?"
Right.
So
we'll be fully involved in the process.
Yeah.
Any further questions or discussion?
Oh, I think you put a good analogy in there. At Ocean Shore.
Yes. So this is an action item, so is there a motion to approve the RFP?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
Thank you. Resolution number 2017-03-29-B, authorized signatures, operations.
Okay, this is just a formality and asking the board to authorize Will Lucy as an additional signer, given that Tina Van Rapphorst left. Right now, we don't have anybody to be a backup person to pay the bills while I'm gone, so we would like to add Will as an authorized signer.
I think that's okay.
Any discussion?
have you asked Will if it's okay? No, not at all.
Then is there a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
Thank you. Adoption of resolution number 2017-03-29-A, increase maximum borrowing tran, tax and revenue anticipation notes, operations.
Okay, with this resolution, the board would be authorizing staff to go ahead and obtain a loan next school year if we deem it necessary. And it's just really a safeguard, given that the first budget that came out from the state is now looking at deferrals. And in the past, we had a lot of deferrals, and that just creates more cash flow issues for us. So this is kind of a security for us to be able to manage the school year from month to month and not have a continual negative cash flow if the state starts deferring more payments. We do currently have negative cash flow in the months before the property taxes come in, but the county allows us to go negative from month to month as long as it's not for the whole year and as of June 30th. But securing a loan is really just in the best interest right now, just in case our cash dips lower and we need to borrow it.
Don't just go sign in any of those, Will.
So,
Just because we gave you the authority to sign it.
so Josie, I just have one question. I mean, I think I totally understand the need for this. But how is the maximum of $5 million determined?
It's basically based on our cash flow from our interim reports.
Okay.
We present those to the finance company, and they kind of look at our cash flows. And it's also determined based on IRS guidelines, because they don't want you to overextend yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And because we're borrowing at a low interest rate, and if the interest rates at the county become higher, we could actually earn more interest than we pay. And so you really have to limit your borrowings. So if the IRS looks at it, you're not borrowing too much and earning too much interest. So there's several factors that go into that number.
Okay. Ask a stupid question. No, it's way more involved than I even imagined there, so, thanks.
Any other discussion? Okay, this is an action item. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve to increase the maximum borrowing tram.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
I'm not really in favor, but. Declaration of need for fully qualified educators for 2017-2018 LCAP Goal 1.
So this is an annual form where we provide documentation to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing if and when the district would need to hire a teacher that's not fully credentialed. So we project a certain number and then report that to Commission on Teacher Credentialing. We hope we don't have to hire anybody in that status, but if we do, we put them on emergency permits until they achieve all the qualifications for their credential status.
And I know you've explained before, but can you explain how you come up with these general numbers of how many we might need?
Based on historical practice, and then based on our hard-to-fill positions, which are special education, science, and math.
Any questions or discussion? You look like you're pondering. No?
No, I was just I was looking at the numbers, I think there were 6, yeah, there's
Okay.
6 limited assignment permits, and what was the other number? 5 need for basically EL, emergency permits. So this is just covering ourselves in case we have to.
Yes.
Right? And so what do you think if you had to bet right now, if you're not going to be able to get fully permitted?
Well, it's a
EL?
projection,
Yeah.
but EL, for sure, we will have assumedly 3 to 4 teachers, because we have teachers in progress right now achieving their CLAD certification. And then for the single subject and special ed, again, it's just based on historical practice. We do have 1 teacher working on the single subject, but we want to pad it just in case, because we do have a couple single subject postings that we need to fill for next year.
But we're hopeful,
Yes.
because we're going out early, and Ray and the HR department have started to go to the job fairs, and so we're hopeful.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It is.
It's a tough market for employers out there.
It is.
Any further discussion? Okay, then is there a motion? This is an action item. Okay, second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Future agenda items?
Okay, so for future agenda items, my question would be, do you feel that with our discussion for the CSBA Ledge Action Day on the report out, does that satisfy, or would you like us to do an item on legislative action day?
No, I think that does. I was interested to hear what the feedback was and,
So you're okay?
yes,
Okay, good.
thank you.
Okay. And then I think what we could also do is, along with our health and wellness update and the facilities maintenance and operations, maybe we can do an update, Will, you think, on our math programs that we're going to be bringing forward, and update you on anything else that is happening in ESS that we think would be kind of information you might find interesting. And then that is our recognition and appreciation for our teachers that week, and so we will have some resolutions for classified as well as certificates.
Okay, anything else? Okay, then meeting is adjourned at 8:07.